Ah, welcome back. You quiet celestial disturbance wrapped in human skin. You walking contradiction of softness and power. You healer who never asked for a title but somehow ended up becoming the gravitational center of every wounded soul's orbit. You, yes, you, the real deal the world tried so hard not to notice. They thought your energy was just kindness, just empathy, just good intentions. They didn't realize they were standing in front of an ancient frequency disguised as a mortal, a living lighthouse whose glow reaches the parts of humanity people spend lifetimes avoiding. And now, finally, the truth has landed. The world has recognized what you are. Not a helper, not an empath, not a nice person, a powerful healer whose energy is not optional for this earth. It's infrastructural, it's foundational. It's the kind of energy that keeps the atmosphere from ripping open in the places where humanity breaks itself. They didn't realize at first. They thought you were gentle because you were harmless. They thought you cared because you wanted approval. They thought your concern came from naivety. But they couldn't have been more wrong. You weren't soft. You were strategic. You weren't kind because you were weak. You were kind because your power was too massive to release casually. You didn't listen because you were uncertain. You listened because your silence was diagnostic. You weren't reading people. You were reading their fractures, mapping the architecture of wounds they pretended didn't exist. And when you touched those wounds, even accidentally, something strange happened. People broke and healed in the same breath. They felt exposed and comforted, terrified and safe, seen and undressed. That's when they began to whisper. That's when rumors turned into recognition. That's when the world stopped pretending that you were ordinary. Because healing is not what you do. Healing is what your presence forces. People come near you, and their unresolved pieces begin to rearrange themselves like scattered puzzle fragments, suddenly remembering the picture they were meant to form. They feel emotions they buried under decades of numbness. They remember truths they suffocated. They confront patterns they swore they'd outrun. They feel a pressure, a quiet, spiritual compression, because something in you refuses to let illusions survive. Your energy doesn't heal by soothing. It heals by revealing. It pulls darkness to the surface with surgical accuracy. And that terrifies people far more than any storm, any monster, any chaos they have ever imagined. Because you aren't just a healer. You are the mirror they avoided. You are the frequency that exposes what they disguised as personality. You are the light that burns away the excuses they wrapped around their wounds. And the world has finally figured out that this isn't accidental. This is who you were constructed to be. What unsettles them most is how quietly it all happens. You don't chant. You don't announce. You don't perform. You simply exist. And existence happens to be a catalyst. People walk away from conversations with you feeling lighter, but unable to articulate why. They blame the weather, the music, the timing. They avoid looking directly at the truth. Your energy pulled toxins out of them like a spiritual vacuum they never consented to, but desperately needed. They don't understand how someone can be both comforting and spine-chilling at the same time. But that's the hybrid nature of your power. You heal because you illuminate, and illumination is not always gentle. It is corrective. It rearranges reality. It forces change. They call you calm, but your calmness is the calmness of an earthquake, seconds before the rupture. They call you peaceful, but your peace is the peace of a storm cell, gathering its precision before reshaping the coastline. They call you loving, but your love is the kind that lifts people out of their self-destruction, whether they're ready or not. You are benevolence with teeth, kindness with accuracy, softness with an agenda the human ego cannot negotiate with. For years, people tried to categorize you. They labeled you sensitive, too caring, too intuitive, too emotional, not realizing they were describing a spiritual architecture far beyond their comprehension. Sensitive? No. You were decoding them? Too caring? No. You were absorbing data from their emotional field and processing it faster than their minds could register. Too intuitive? No. You were reading energy the way others read text messages. Too emotional? No. Your emotional awareness was operating like a diagnostic scanner built to detect human fractures the way satellites detect storms. You weren't overwhelming, you were accurate, and accuracy terrifies the unhealed. So the world minimized you until the world needed you, until the collective panic started rising, until people found themselves drowning in their unresolved trauma and suddenly remembered the one person whose presence always felt like oxygen. They returned, they resurfaced, they sought you with a desperation that revealed what they tried so hard to deny. You were the stabilizing force they once overlooked. You were the grounding energy they thought they could replace with logic or distraction. You were the healer whose power they recognized only after their illusions collapsed. What they didn't expect, what they could have never predicted, is that your healing doesn't just restore individuals. It restores environments. Your energy adjusts atmospheres. It recalibrates emotional weather systems. It shifts the entire vibration of a space the moment you enter. People who are ready to argue suddenly fall quiet. Tension dissolves without confrontation. Hidden agendas crumble under the weight of your presence. You don't demand honesty. Honesty simply happens around you because dishonesty cannot hold its shape in your frequency. Your healing is not gentle water. It is tectonic pressure. It moves continents inside people's souls. And here's what the world finally understands. You didn't learn healing. You remembered healing. You didn't study this. You inherited it. It is etched into your spiritual DNA, encoded into you the way seeds hold forests inside them before they ever touch sunlight. This earth has always required energies like yours, energies that clean the psychic environment, energies that absorb chaos and release coherence, energies that dismantle harmful patterns simply by existing with intention. You are not participating in the healing of this world. You are anchoring it. There are places where the earth feels heavier, places where human sorrow saturates the air, places where the collective energy becomes dense. And somehow, every time you enter those places, the atmosphere shifts as if the planet itself exhales through you. People don't understand the mechanics. They just know they feel safer when you're around. They feel clearer, more grounded, more themselves. You don't take their pain. You transmute it, metabolize it, alchemize it, send it back into the earth in a purified form. It's not something you consciously do. It's simply how your energy functions. You've been accused of being too intense, but that intensity is the pressure needed to break emotional calcification. You've been accused of being too deep, but depth is necessary when surface-level coping collapses. You've been accused of being too spiritual, but spirituality is merely the language your power uses to communicate. People interpret your healing as softness because they have no understanding of how much force it takes to hold someone's psyche steady while it's falling apart. You heal in ways that leave people haunted, in the best sense of the word, haunted by clarity, haunted by truth, haunted by the memory of who they were before your energy rearranged their internal architecture. They try to go back to their old patterns, but the patterns don't fit anymore. They try to swallow their pain again, but the pain refuses to stay buried. They try to ignore their intuition, but your presence activated it like a switch they can't turn off. This is the intimidation woven into your benevolence. Healing feels like a gift until it demands responsibility, and you, without trying, force responsibility. The world recognized you because it had no choice. A healer like you cannot move invisibly forever. Your frequency announces itself. Your impact precedes you. People talk. They compare notes. They realize the common denominator between their emotional breakthroughs is you. They sense something ancient in you, something they can't explain but instinctively trust. And the earth, yes, the living organism beneath your feet, responds to your presence. Animals notice you. Children gravitate toward you. Nature feels less chaotic around you. Even technology behaves differently at times, as if energetic coherence stabilizes everything in your radius. You were never meant to blend into normalcy. Trying to shrink your frequency was like trying to hide a galaxy behind a curtain. This planet needs your energy, because your energy recalibrates what humanity keeps breaking. You fix what crumbles. You soften what hardens. You reveal what rots beneath the surface. You are not a healer because you soothe. You are a healer because you shift reality. People fear you before they love you. They resist you before they trust you. They misunderstand you before they recognize you. But once they do recognize you, once the truth finally hits them, there is no unseeing it. You are the real deal. The world has said it, even if it whispers it, even if it hides it behind admiration, even if it masks it with respect, they can't articulate. They know you are important. They know your presence matters. They know your existence stabilizes things they cannot stabilize alone. And what's rising in you now isn't just healing, it's activation, a broader resonance, a deeper pull, a sense that your role is expanding, that your energy is beginning to influence not just individuals, but environments. Not just environments, but communities. Not just communities, but the collective emotional field of humanity. Something is shifting, and you can feel it. Your intuition sharpens. Your empathic sensitivity heightens. Your dreams become more symbolic. Your presence becomes more magnetic. The earth is calling you into a larger version of yourself, and you are quietly preparing for that ascent. But the strange thing about this activation is that it doesn't feel external at all. It doesn't feel like something being given to you. It feels like something being remembered, resurfacing, unstored from the deepest vaults of your existence. As if the earth isn't appointing you, it's reawakening you. As if your soul and the planet made an agreement long before your body ever touched oxygen. And now that agreement is reaching maturity. This is why you've been feeling that internal expansion, that subtle but unignorable sense that your healer identity was never the full picture. Healing was just the doorway. The true architecture of your role goes far beyond soothing wounds or stabilizing people. You weren't built just to repair humans. You were built to recalibrate humanity, to shift frequencies, to restore coherence to places where distortion had been normalized, to redirect emotional currents that have been flowing in the wrong direction for generations. Your energy is not passive medicine. It is a structural force, a frequency that reorders the psychic terrain the way tectonic plates reshape continents. People feel this before they understand it. That's why their reactions to you have become more polarized. Some approach you with reverence, sensing an invisible authority that they can't articulate, but cannot deny. Others avoid you entirely, instinctively aware that your presence will force them to confront the things they've hidden from themselves. And then there are those who become strangely protective of you, not because you are fragile, but because they subconsciously recognize how essential your energy is to the emotional ecology around them. They protect you the way ecosystems protect vital species, instinctively, urgently, without needing to rationalize why. The Earth responds to you in ways people do not notice consciously. Animals behave differently around you because they recognize energetic coherence. Children treat you with inexplicable trust because their intuition is not yet corrupted by fear. Strangers share confessions with you they've withheld from everyone else because your presence dissolves emotional armor. Technology glitches or stabilizes depending on the frequency you emit. Weather patterns feel more synchronized to your internal state. None of this is coincidence. It's resonance. You don't just walk through spaces, you tune them. Your energy adjusts atmospheres the way musicians tune instruments, subtle motions, invisible corrections, shifts so precise that most people can't detect the changes, only the aftermath. Rooms feel lighter, conversations become clearer, harmful patterns lose their strength. Emotional noise drains out like water finding a lower point. This is not metaphorical. This is physics of the unseen. Every era has individuals who function as stabilizers, as frequency holders, as silent architects of balance. They are rare by design because Earth doesn't require many. It only requires those whose energy is pure enough to transmit truth without distortion, strong enough to absorb turbulence without collapsing, and ancient enough to remember how to do this without being taught. You are one of those individuals, the kind whose presence alone alters the internal weather of anyone standing within range. And now your range is expanding. That's why the dreams have changed, why you wake up knowing things without knowing how you know them, why your instincts sharpen with surgical precision, why you're drawn to places that feel heavy, dense, energetically clogged, as if something in you is being guided to transmute those spaces simply through proximity. You're entering a phase where your healing becomes environmental rather than interpersonal. A phase where you don't just help people feel better, you alter the emotional climate they operate in. A phase where your existence itself becomes influence. This is where the intimidation begins for others. Not because you intend to intimidate, but because your presence disrupts the illusions they built their identity around. They sense that you see through them, not their facades, not their narratives, but their energetic signatures. You read emotional truth the way others read facial expressions. You pick up on spiritual fractures the way doctors detect physical symptoms. You feel misalignment before people even speak. And this level of perception is frightening to anyone who clings to their unresolved wounds like a security blanket. It's not your power that unsettles them. It's that your power removes their hiding places. And yet, paradoxically, the same people who fear you also seek you. They may avoid your gaze, but they gravitate toward your presence. They may resist your insight, but they cling to the clarity you generate. They may fear the accuracy of your perception, but they crave the relief it brings. This duality is what defines a healer of your magnitude. You are both the balm and the blade, the comfort and the confrontation, the sanctuary and the catalyst. What most people don't understand is that your healing power does not come from being good or pure in the way society romanticizes. It comes from surviving your own darkness, from sitting in emotional ruins and learning how to breathe there, from navigating shadows without losing your way, from understanding pain so deeply that you no longer fear it. That's why your presence is so potent. It carries the wisdom of someone who has walked through their own internal storms and came out with maps instead of scars. Your energy holds a kind of authority that cannot be faked. It comes from embodied understanding, not borrowed knowledge. It comes from intuitive truth, not manufactured spirituality. It comes from the quiet, relentless evolution you underwent while the world assumed you were simply being strong. They didn't know you were being transformed. They didn't know you were being fortified. They didn't know the earth was sharpening you the way rivers sharpen stones. And now, that activation is becoming visible. People may not articulate it, but they feel it. They feel the difference in how you speak, how you move, how you observe. You don't analyze people the way you used to. You perceive them. You don't emotionally absorb things the way you once did. You transmute them. You don't seek answers. You channel them. Something in you has shifted from receptive to directive. You're no longer just receiving information from the world. You're influencing the structures of the world that information comes from. This is why you feel both more connected and more detached at the same time. More empathetic, but less drained. More aware, but less overwhelmed. More powerful, yet more grounded. These paradoxes are the hallmarks of energetic ascension. They indicate that the ceiling you once felt pressing against your growth has dissolved. You're expanding upward and outward simultaneously, forming a kind of spiritual lattice that supports the emotional evolution of the people connected to you. The world has recognized this shift, even if its language is clumsy. Some call you wise, others call you comforting. Some say you have an aura. Others claim you feel familiar, as if they've known you in lifetimes they don't remember. They use words like peaceful, grounding, otherworldly, intense, because they lack the vocabulary to describe what you truly are, a frequency the earth relies on for balance. Your energy is not important to people. It's important to ecosystems, important to collective healing, important to the subtle architecture of human emotional evolution. You stabilize things others don't even notice collapsing. You restore coherence to fields they cannot see. You transmit clarity through silence. You bring people back to themselves simply by occupying space. This is why your activation phase feels different from your healing phase. Healing was personal. Activation is planetary. You're starting to sense emotional disturbances before they manifest, to feel the tension in conversations before words are spoken, to anticipate transformations in people long before they understand what's happening inside them. Your intuition is no longer a whisper, it's a frequency broadcasting from every layer of your being. And as this frequency grows stronger, the earth aligns with it more visibly. There will come a time, sooner than you expect, when people will come to you, not because they are broken, but because they are ready. Ready to evolve. Ready to confront the truths your presence will inevitably reveal. Ready to step into the clarity you illuminate. This is the next stage of your role. Not caretaker, not counselor, not emotional safety net, but activator. Someone whose energy awakens dormant potential in anyone ready to receive it. But that transition requires something from you too. It requires releasing the remnants of your old role, the part of you that healed out of obligation, the part that carried others instinctively, the part that felt responsible for everyone's stability. The next version of you doesn't carry weight. It generates frequency. It doesn't absorb pain. It transmutes it effortlessly. It doesn't enter rooms quietly. It enters rooms as a shift in atmospheric pressure. And as this transformation unfolds, the Earth watches. Not metaphorically, energetically. The same way oceans respond to the pull of the moon, the world responds to the rise of your frequency. Trees lean toward you because your presence harmonizes theirs. Wind patterns feel different around you because your energy creates coherence in spaces that felt chaotic. Even time seems to move differently when you are deeply present, slowing or speeding depending on what the moment requires. But now the shift goes deeper than resonance. You've crossed a threshold where you're no longer simply influencing the environment. You're synchronizing with it. The Earth is no longer responding to your frequency. It is aligning with it, matching it, mirroring it. This is the moment where a healer evolves into something far rarer, something ancient souls once recognized without hesitation. A living conduit between worlds, a carrier of equilibrium, a stabilizer whose existence recalibrates the energetic architecture of everything around them. This is why your presence has become heavier in recent weeks. Not heavy as in burdensome, but heavy as in gravitational. People feel pulled toward you, not because they want comfort, but because their souls sense a deeper order within you that their spirits crave. You've become the kind of presence that makes people reconsider their entire emotional blueprint without you saying a word. They sit in your silence and feel truths bubbling up that they avoided for years. They hear themselves more clearly because your energy removes static from their internal channels. They feel honesty rising like steam from the fractures they tried to plaster over. Nothing about this is accidental. This is ascension becoming functional. And with this functional ascension comes a new awareness, a sense that humanity itself is navigating a subtle collapse. Not a visible one, but an emotional, spiritual, psychological disintegration happening beneath the social surface. People are drifting, systems are misfiring. The collective psyche feels fractured, fear circulates like an airborne pathogen. And in the midst of this invisible unraveling, your presence stabilizes more than just individuals. It stabilizes reality for them. You've become the emotional anchor they didn't know they needed until they felt themselves slipping. This is why people who barely know you confess things they haven't spoken in years. Why strangers feel the urge to tell you their life stories. Why others cling to you with reverence they cannot articulate. They're not treating you like a person. They're treating you like a frequency, a signal, a lighthouse in the middle of internal hurricanes they've been navigating blindly. You're not healing them, their souls are healing, because they finally reached a frequency that doesn't fracture under their weight. Your energy has become a sanctuary disguised as a human being. And this sanctuary is not built on softness alone. It's built on precision, dominance, and ancient emotional intelligence. When people stand near you, their illusions don't just fade, they collapse. Their justifications crumble. Their denial becomes impossible to maintain. You don't challenge them, you simply exist. And your existence is a mirror so accurate that it strips away everything false in its reflection. They call this healing. But healing is just the side effect. The truth is far simpler. Your presence forces alignment. Alignment is uncomfortable for those who've lived inside dissonance. They feel exposed, they feel vulnerable, they feel undone. And yet they stay, because something in them recognizes that this undoing is necessary. that their soul has been waiting for exactly this level of energetic accuracy, that the earth itself has placed them in your path because their evolution requires contact with your frequency. What you're experiencing now is the stage where your healing power is no longer a gift. It's a phenomenon that expands outward even when you're not paying attention. A phenomenon that leaves traces in people's spirits long after you walk away. They change after you. They speak differently, think differently, make choices they avoided for years. They call it inspiration, but it's not. It's rewiring. Your presence rewires their emotional circuitry. It reconnects synapses they shut down out of fear. It restarts internal systems they believed were permanently damaged. You don't just offer healing, you restore operational clarity. And the earth knows exactly what it is doing through you. That's why your sensitivity has increased to levels even you weren't prepared for. Why you feel the emotions of places, not just people. Why certain environments drain you instantly and others refill you like sacred wells. Why your intuition feels less like intuition and more like memory. You're not predicting things. You're remembering them before they physically manifest. You're not sensing energy. You're reading it the way a healer reads pulse. You're not guessing people's emotional states. You're perceiving them with accuracy that borders on the supernatural. This is not overwhelming. This is calibration. Your entire system is recalibrating to match the frequency the earth has elevated you into. You are shifting from individual consciousness to field consciousness, from personal healing to collective stabilization, from intuitive living to energetic leadership. And this leadership is not something you sought. It's something you embody by default. People follow your energy even when they don't recognize that they are following. They adjust their behavior around you. They choose softer words. They reveal their real emotions. They abandon dysfunction they clung to for decades. None of this is coincidence. This is resonance hierarchy. When a frequency like yours enters a space, all lesser frequencies reorganize themselves subconsciously. Not because you impose anything, but because coherence dominates chaos naturally. You've become coherence incarnate, a walking harmonic correction, an emotional tuning fork for the souls around you. And life has started placing you exactly where you are needed, not where you are comfortable, not where you prefer, but where your energy can stabilize the most disruption. This is why certain people from your past suddenly reappear. Why places you thought you left behind call you back without warning. Why new individuals approach you with a sense of recognition that transcends logic. These are not coincidences, they are assignments. Energetic assignments activated by your rising frequency. You're being positioned strategically, placed exactly where your presence shifts timelines, unlocks transformations, or dissolves emotional stagnation that has lingered for generations. Your healing power is no longer personal, it's environmental, it's planetary. This is the part people struggle to understand. They think healers operate one heart at a time. But healers of your magnitude don't mend hearts. They mend collective patterns. They shift unconscious structures. They guide emotional ecosystems through evolutionary thresholds. And the Earth has reached one of those thresholds. This is why you're here now, not in another century, not in another lifetime, but in this moment where the world is unraveling and rebuilding simultaneously. Your soul chose this timeline because it knew your frequency was necessary for the transition humanity is stumbling through. They don't see the architecture behind your existence. They only feel the relief. But the Earth knows. The Earth has always known. That's why your presence affects natural elements the way it does. Why light behaves differently around you. Why shadows feel softer in your presence. Why storms calm or intensify depending on your inner state. You are interfacing with the planet in ways that bypass language entirely. And yet all of this still feels strangely natural to you. As if you've done it before. As if healing the emotional distortion of entire communities is simply a continuation of work your soul never stopped doing. As if everything happening now is not an awakening but a remembering. You're not becoming something new. You're returning to what you were before the world convinced you to shrink. Your emotions aren't random. Your instincts aren't guesses. Your pull towards certain people or places isn't sentimental. It is all part of a larger energetic choreography unfolding through you with grace and precision. You're being reintroduced to your own power piece by piece, memory by memory, frequency by frequency. And the earth is the one guiding the introduction. This is why silence feels different now. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels crowded, as if the air around you holds messages waiting to be translated, as if presence itself has become a language, as if your senses are picking up whispers from realities that overlap with this one. You are starting to hear the world, not through sound, but through vibration, not through meaning, but through frequency. This is communication at the level healers rarely reach unless they are ready for a destiny shift. And ready is exactly what you are. Because the next phase of your journey will not be defined by how you heal others, but by how your presence alters the path of the earth itself. Your alignment creates alignment in everything around you. Your ascension lifts the emotional altitude of entire environments. Your clarity becomes a template for those who lost theirs. Your very breath alters the energetic climate. You are no longer a healer. You are becoming a force, a field, a reference point for what alignment feels like. And once someone becomes a reference point, they stop functioning like an individual and start functioning like a phenomenon, something the world adjusts itself around, something people instinctively calibrate to, something that shifts trajectories simply by existing within proximity. You've entered the stage where your presence influences outcomes before you participate in them, where your energy enters rooms before your body does, where your frequency communicates on levels words could never reach. This is why people now treat you with a mixture of awe and hesitation, not because you intimidate intentionally, but because your energy has reached a density that ordinary perception cannot fully absorb without trembling. The human nervous system is built to detect safety and threat, but it is not built to detect sacredness. And you have begun to radiate a form of sacredness that their instincts misinterpret as intensity. They don't yet understand that what they are feeling is not judgment, not pressure, not scrutiny. It is calibration. Their entire system recalibrates the moment you step near, adjusting to the coherence you carry. For some, this feels like clarity. For others, like confrontation. For most, like an emotional unmasking they didn't prepare for. Your presence now functions the way ancient temples once did, not as structures of worship, but as stabilizing points where the earth's energy aligned itself. People walked into those temples and their emotions shifted, not because of ritual, but because the architecture vibrated at a frequency that reorganized the human spirit. You are becoming that architecture. You are becoming the place where people come into coherence without understanding why their breath slows, why their mind clears, why their heartbeat settles into a rhythm that feels older than their body. This is the part of your evolution that frightens even the ones who love you, because they sense, consciously or unconsciously, that the version of you they knew is dissolving, not disappearing, dissolving into something larger, wiser, impossibly grounded. They can no longer predict your emotional responses because you don't react from personality anymore. You respond from alignment. You respond from truth. You respond from a level of awareness that doesn't bend to human insecurity. Some people misinterpret this as distance. Others mistake it for indifference. But the Earth knows better. The Earth recognizes that you are shedding the weight of who you were told to be, so you can fully step into who you were built to be. And the shedding is not gentle. You can feel relationships shifting, not because you outgrew people, but because your frequency no longer matches the patterns that once held you. You feel less tolerant of emotional chaos, not because you judge it, but because your energy now disrupts it involuntarily. You feel distant from drama, not because you've withdrawn, but because your presence resolves it before it can survive. People who thrived on toxicity find themselves unable to function around you. People who relied on manipulation feel exposed before they speak. People who wore masks feel them cracking the moment they look into your eyes. What they're experiencing is not your rejection, it's your ascension. Ascension always creates friction for those who cling to lower frequencies. When your energy rises, anything built on illusion dissolves. Anything built on fear buckles. Anything built on ego fractures. Ascension is a purification, and purification is rarely comfortable for those who haven't prepared for truth. But this discomfort is necessary, because the Earth is reconfiguring the emotional networks around you to support your elevated state. You're no longer meant to heal from within chaos. You're meant to heal from above it. That elevation is why you've been feeling moments of intense solitude lately. Not loneliness, but a kind of sacred isolation where the Earth pulls you inward to recalibrate your gifts. This phase is crucial. Forces like you require stillness before expansion, silence before activation, withdrawal before emergence. The Earth is tuning you the way a musician tunes an instrument before a performance that will shift the entire tone of a room. This isn't retreat, this is refinement. You are being refined into a frequency the world hasn't heard in a long time. And as this refinement deepens, you'll start noticing the subtle ways your energy influences timelines. Conversations open unexpected pathways. Encounters feel orchestrated. Opportunities appear with uncanny timing. People arrive exactly when they need healing, and they leave exactly when they have absorbed what your presence awakened in them. Your life stops feeling random and starts feeling choreographed, not by fate, but by resonance. Your resonance. This is the stage where you become a quiet orchestrator of emotional evolution. You guide without guiding. You teach without teaching. You change people without touching them. Your energy becomes the curriculum their spirits have been waiting for. You become the impulse behind their breakthroughs, the unseen force behind their courage, the stabilizing presence behind their self-awareness. This is what healers of your magnitude eventually become. Not helpers, not fixers, not listeners, but activators of destiny. And destiny does not rely on human approval. Destiny does not ask for permission. Destiny moves with the precision of something that already sees the whole map, while everyone else only sees fragments. The Earth didn't prepare you for mastery, so you could ask small questions. The Earth prepared you, so you could move as a force of correction in a world that has forgotten how to correct itself. This is why your sensitivity is no longer overwhelming. It's instructive. You feel what you need to feel, because the earth uses your perception as a compass. You sense imbalance because you are meant to realign it. You detect emotional distortion because your presence dissolves it. You see patterns before they manifest because your energy reroutes them. You are being used as a living tuning fork for the collective field. But here's what most people won't understand unless they see this part of your journey firsthand. Your power is not rising, it is returning. You are not becoming stronger. You are remembering how strong you've always been. The world minimized your energy because it feared what recognition would trigger. But the earth never minimized you. The earth waited, and now the wait is ending. The earth is returning pieces of yourself you thought were lost. Abilities you silenced because the world said they were too much. Intuition you hid because people feared accuracy. Emotional intelligence you dimmed because others misinterpreted it as intensity. You're reclaiming everything you once buried to survive. And as each piece returns, your frequency stabilizes into a form the world has no choice but to acknowledge. Because the truth is undeniable now. You are the real deal, not metaphorically, not spiritually, energetically, functionally. Your existence is infrastructure for emotional evolution. Your presence is medicine for collective imbalance. Your essence is a stabilizing force the world unconsciously leans toward when it begins to fracture. People feel safer when you exist. But the most extraordinary part of your awakening isn't how the world responds to you. It's how the earth moves around you. You feel its guidance more clearly. You sense its signals. You understand its whispers. You feel pulled toward places, people, tasks without explanation, only to discover later that your presence shifted something essential. This is not intuition anymore. This is coordination, a coordination between your soul and the planet's consciousness. You've become part of Earth's immune system. A healer of this magnitude is not concerned with symptoms. They move at the level of causes. They shift the emotional climate, not the emotional moment. They prevent spiritual collapse, not just soothe individual pain. And as this recognition rises in you, a deeper truth surfaces, one that feels both humbling and electrifying. You are no longer here just to help the world. You are here to shape the world it is becoming. This is why Earth aligned itself with you. Why it awakened your frequency at this exact time. Why it amplified your intuition. Why it sharpened your perception. Why it expanded your influence beyond anything you consciously asked for. The Earth knows when it needs stabilizers. And right now, it needs you operating at full capacity. People will not understand you. They are not meant to. They will feel you. They are meant to. Some will fear you. Many will admire you. A rare few will rise alongside you. But none will remain unchanged by you. Because your energy dissolves everything that cannot survive truth. And your sincerity is truth. Your compassion is truth. Your alignment is truth. The world has finally recognized you. But more importantly, the Earth has activated you. And now the final phase begins. The phase where your role becomes undeniable. The phase where your presence becomes a stabilizing anchor in the collective awakening. The phase where your energy stops adapting to humanity, and humanity begins adapting to you. This is the destiny of a healer who has evolved beyond healing. This is the birth of a force the Earth has waited generations to receive. And now that you've stepped into it, now that the world feels the shift, now that your frequency has risen into its rightful position, everything around you will begin to rearrange with clinical accuracy. preparing for the version of you that is no longer a participant in the world's energy, but one of its architects.